Starting at home was fun for the 76ers and successful, but now Dwight Howard and company are on the road in the Big Apple at Madison Square Garden. Yes, that looks to be padded beats that Superman is wearing around his ears walking into MSG. Shake Milton taking it easy on the training table. It's the 76ers and the Washington Wizards. I beg your pardon. The New York Knicks, of course, from Madison Square Garden. I still have Wednesday's season opener against the Wizards at the Center on my mind. And why not? It was a great showing for the 76ers. They knocked off the Washington Wizards by the score of 113-107. And now a back-to-back two-game road trip is upcoming for the Sixers. They wrap it up tomorrow night at Cleveland. How you doing? I'm Brian Seltzer. Thanks so much for checking out 7-6 Live Countdown presented by Tissot. Lauren Rosen, what's up? How are you?
I'm doing well. I am looking forward to what we have ahead. 3 games in 4 days. It feels like the season just started, and now we already have an exciting slate ahead. We'll see if the guys can get into some good momentum, good juju on the road this weekend, and no better way to start than with a back-to-back.
Yeah, if anyone was wondering whether or not the NBA season was actually underway after Wednesday night, well, it's starting now. Business is about to pick up. The 76ers are going to be playing at a breakneck speed for really up until the middle of March. So many few gaps in the schedule. Going to be ultra rare for them to have something like they did the past 2 days, which was back-to-back days without games. Again, we won't see that for a few weeks. And the Sixers right now in a portion of their schedule where, yes, as you said, Lauren, there's a real opportunity to gain momentum. On paper, you'd think the Knicks and the Cleveland Cavaliers, who they play tomorrow, two teams that are going to be trying to find their identity, very youthful early on in the season. And you'd love to see the Sixers try and build off that great, gritty come-from-behind victory that they got in South Philly on Wednesday.
No doubt about that. And if there's something that's been a constant throughout the group's media sessions, when they speak, they say that they just want to get more reps together. They want to build chemistry. They want to gel. What better opportunity than in a back-to-back against a couple of teams that hopefully present opportunities for good quality wins on the road?
I'm talking about Superman. There's Ben Simmons and Dwight Howard hooking up in that game Wednesday at the Center. A lot of great observations and signs to pull from that performance, Lauren. And I just thought we can begin with the grit factor. This was a stage of the game where the 76ers, they actually finished the first quarter pretty strong, took a 30-26 lead into the second period. At one point, they had a 13-point lead. They then fell behind by 12, ultimately to shut the door on the Wizards with a 40-24 fourth quarter closeout performance led by Joel Embiid.
And that fourth period was really important for team building. Afterwards, it felt like they all rallied and they came together and they understand what it takes to win coming back from behind. Doc Rivers said that on both ends of the floor, he was really impressed with the way that they came together, especially considering the fact that it's not a group that's really played together before. And when it counted, when it came down to those final few minutes, they really proved that they could execute on both ends.
Yeah, and I think it was something where Joel, at the outset of that fourth quarter, really got started. And then there were a handful of players sprinkled in who helped seal the deals. We see the Sixers getting off to this strong start in their win over the Washington Wizards on Wednesday. There were other guys, thinking of players like Seth Curry and Ben Simmons with his defense and Shake Milton being very steady, who really helped step up and guide the Sixers to this first win. And more than anything else, as you watch Joe right there cap off an alley-oop jam with Ben Simmons setting him up, I think, Lauren, one thing that's so important for the Sixers to see in the early days of the Doc Rivers era is just things that are kind of new in terms of approach and then having those pan out. Like something that Doc has been talking about is the play that set up Curry and Simmons for that game-clinching dunk. It was an action the Sixers ran a handful of times. They got multiple scoring options off of that. And that's something that I think is really important for the team to see some new stuff that Doc's installing, perhaps a different way of thinking. Just run it, run it, run it. There's multiple options. When they see that take root, there's more belief in a new coach and a new system and a new way of doing things.
Plus, plays like that go a really long way when it comes to chemistry. Keep in mind, that was Seth and Ben's first game together, and they were able to pull off what would become a game-winning play. If you follow Daryl Morey on Twitter, you might already know this, but Ben also was 3 for 3 down the stretch in that game. Maybe it took a little while to find his mojo, but at the end, he was someone that really was able to seal the deal, and seeing Ben close a game with that type of command, like you said, on the defensive end and on the offensive end too, is a really great sign for what's to come in the young All-Star.
Yeah, pulling up some of those numbers from the fourth quarter from Wednesday's win. So the Sixers outscored the Wizards 40-24. They held Washington to 8 for 22 shooting. I think the biggest thing for me, Lauren, aside from Joel Embiid's 15 points and going 5 for 5 from the line, was the Sixers didn't commit a single turnover in the fourth quarter. They had, I think, like most teams, a lot of issues with turnovers in their 2 preseason games, and they cut that out when the game was on the line and they needed to build a comeback, and they ended up outscoring the Wizards 9-zip on points off turnovers in the fourth. I thought that was great.
They took good care of the ball after the drought that they experienced in that third quarter. And then a whole separate thing that we haven't shouted out yet, this bench, whether it was late in the preseason or in that first game, the season opener, the bench for the Sixers has looked really good. We've seen more than a few occasions with an all bench lineup that in the opener, at least, really kept the guys in the game for a lot of their minutes out there together. So the bench is definitely something to watch as we keep going this season. Obviously, Joel Embiid not on the bench, but he was 1 for 1 from deep and spent the vast majority of his night in the paint. He did a great job in the season opener, especially down the stretch.
Listen, I think when we talk about bench, you can look at it a couple ways. Are there times, at least we've seen a little bit of an inclination towards this from Doc Rivers so far, where he might play 5 bench guys? Sure. But I think it's also taking, like, how do some of the main guys, the starters, play alongside some of the reserves and how they're mixed in. We saw Shake Milton close out the game essentially in the fourth quarter on Wednesday. And look, there's that number right there for the scoring in the fourth quarter. And it was just really encouraging to see that the 76ers showed a mental toughness to battle their way back in this game. Great opportunity to make a good first impression. And when you have play like that, Joel Embiid bulldozing his way through Thomas Bryant, that helps set the tone in a big way.
I like what you say about toughness, because that's something that you can teach, but it's really good to have it from the jump. And I like that it looked like this group decided, you know what, down 12, we're not going to lose this game. We're not going to win our opener. We're going to defend our home court, even though it looks a little different, and really make that decision to bring toughness and grit to the table from the jump. It's something that hopefully the group will be able to extend throughout the season, and it can become part of their identity, which is something they keep saying they're trying to build.
Joel Embiid, 15 big points in the fourth quarter on Wednesday, finished with team highs of 29 points and 14 rebounds. Let's see if we can go to the tape and hear from Joel Embiid after Wednesday's dub.
I've been having a good off season, like I mentioned a couple of days ago, a week ago, just, making sure I take care of my body, just by working with nutritionists, chefs, and, my own PT and massage therapist, and, I'm going to be ready every single night. I want to be able to play every single game, and, back-to-backs, obviously. Some games, something is going to happen, and you're not going to be able to go, but the main thing is that I want to put myself in the right position to succeed, and that starts with my body. And once I'm on the court and healthy, I don't think anybody can stop me, especially with the different mentality that I have this year. So I just got to keep on doing the same thing and, just keep on doing the same thing.
Love to hear that. Nobody can stop me. I'm the best player out there. Embracing a new regimen in the offseason with holistically taking care of his body. It showed that first game. That's the type of attitude from Joel Embiid, obviously, that I felt was a little bit up and down, come and go last year. And game one, to see it, it was great.
He has been very intentional with the way that he presents himself, with the way that he's gotten himself ready for this season. And he hasn't been shy about the fact that he feels like he let himself down. He let the city down last year, and he's not going to let it happen again. And he put his money where his mouth was in that season opener. He said it again after the game. He feels good. He doesn't see anybody stopping him. And these next few games will be a great way for him to continue with that momentum and test it out on the road.
If I were to tell you that a player was plus 33 in 29 minutes, I think your first guess would probably be who?
Shake Milton. But I've seen the stat sheet, so I cheated.
All right. Okay, yeah, little cheat code from Lauren there. But if you hear someone, a player on the Sixers is plus 33 in 29 minutes, you'd probably say that's Joel Embiid more often than not. But you helped me with my segue. Shake Milton off the bench, plus 33 in 29 minutes. He was awesome, part of a 43-point bench effort against the Wizards. I think we shall roll tape again and go to Mr. Shake.
I mean, it's just the first game of the season, but I definitely think it's good for us to get off on the right foot. Like I talked about earlier, we didn't start off our best, our as crisp as we could be. But I think us just sticking together, us continuing to play, being locked in in the game plan, ultimately helped us get the W.
Indeed, it did. Loved seeing that Shake backed up what he showed in the preseason, Lauren, in that first game.
He has just been fantastic. Starting in March when he filled in for injured Ben Simmons at the time and really burst onto the national radar. It's hard to sort of come out as hot as he did and then maintain, but it almost seems like he's come back for this season even stronger than when he left. Literally, he says he's put on a little bit of weight and you can see it in his body a little bit, but he's also so strong with that confidence, like he just said, and he's backing it up on the court. He's looked really good in every chance that he's had and expect that to continue in the games ahead. I love what he brings
close
to
to a
the bench
three-point shooter. Buried that one from beyond last year.
Love this touch, director extraordinaire Ryan Coletti, the motion Shake Milton graphic, the motion shot from the third-year player out of SMU. Yeah, he's been really good, really strong, and just has this quiet confidence about him, and certainly looks like he is going to be a leader of the bench. One thing that I felt I didn't scrutinize enough, Lauren, from that first game or talk about, we certainly, it's taken me about 10 minutes to bring it up here. Dwight Howard had 10 rebounds off the bench in 13 minutes. I mean, that just speaks to the guy doing what he needs to do. That's a big number and certainly a stopgap with Joel Embiid not out there.
Yeah, if he can continue what he's been doing, this is going to look back at we're going to look back at the offseason and see Dwight's acquisition as one of the best things the Sixers have done lately. He has looked really good. He's looked really good alongside Shake. They talk about their chemistry. They talk about the pick and roll being lethal together. And I know I've brought that up on this show before, but to have that type of confidence, only having worked together a few weeks, they just met each other for the first time a couple weeks ago. They look really good together. So that Dwight Howard, Shake Milton pick and roll, that Dwight Howard, Shake Milton bench unit is going to be something to watch for the rest of the year, if you ask me.
Well, as we turn our focus to tonight's matchup at the Garden between the Sixers and the New York Knicks, the man who will be calling the game is Tom McGinnis. Let us go to the booth at the Center in South Philadelphia. I had a chance to chat with Tom a few moments ago. T-Mac, one in the books for the 76ers, a great come-from-behind win on Wednesday over the Wizards. What was your biggest takeaway from that matchup?
Well, when Coach Rivers talked after the game about how, the body language in the first 6 minutes, the guys looked downcast a little bit. They just didn't have it, And for one, the Sixers struggled out of the gate in the second half many times last year. But then, according to the coach, and I think you could see it, in that the Sixers scored 55 points in the last 18 minutes in the game. They stood up and met the challenge, which is what you have to do. And then to put 40 points on the board in the fourth quarter with the Bean getting 15 of them, those are some of the big takeaways. But I think the game was won by the second unit. That was really impressive. So you want to see Danny Green and Harris get going a little bit tonight. They're veterans. They've had a track record of success shooting and whatnot offensively, so you expect they would. But if you're going to get that kind of production out of Milton and Korkmaz and Howard and Maxey and Mike Scott, whoever gets in there from that second unit, that bodes really well. And then tonight, the road. We could all remember that last year that was where the Sixers really dropped off. That, and as I say in my open on the radio, they didn't dominate sub-500 teams. They beat New York 12 times in a row. And now they've on the road for a weekend set starting there tomorrow night in Cleveland. And these are winnable games, and they should take care of business. So those are some of the things I look back on the game Wednesday and what we hope to see tonight.
It sounded like, Tom, I'm not sure if you inferred this as well, but to me at least, and hearing what Doc Rivers said when he was first introduced, this whole home road thing has really been on his mind, and he's gone to lengths to talk to players about it, get their theories on why there was such a disparity last year. And I really do think like this is an area that he is very much keyed in on, because he feels like if they can get that turned around, you take the home performance the team showed last year with an improved record. Let's just start at 500 on the road. You're talking about a totally different club.
Right. And to your point about Coach Rivers, he has the answer. He said during one of his Zoom sessions when he spoke during camp, however many days ago, that I think I know what it is. And, he's not going to share it, which is understandable. So I don't know how it works in a 72 game schedule, especially since now we only have 36 scheduled. But in the past, to your point, that's what to me it took. You had to play like 75% winning ball, win 30-something games at home, and then split your road games, which that would be like 20 or so wins. And there you go. That's like a 50-win season. But I think, more than anything, forget the records. You have to be able to go out there and dominate. And I don't know that home court is going to have what it had before, because you don't have 20,000 people here in this building helping to get you over the hump and motivate you and fire you up and make it difficult for the opponents as well. So those things are going to have a little bit of an asterisk, if you will. It's going to skew differently just because it's all so different. But going on the road and taking care of it, the part about being on the road in enemy territory and those types of things and bonding together where it's just the team and the group that's out there, that's not different. So, I think it's important to get off to a good start tonight and gain that confidence to begin to reverse that deal that they had last year.
Tom McGinnis, the time is always much appreciated. Looking forward to hearing you on 97.5 in the Sixers Radio Network.
You got it, Brian. Good night.
It is crazy to think that Tom's not going to be at the Garden calling tonight's game, a favorite stop for all of us who are lucky enough to get to travel around the NBA circuit. But there is a game, the Sixers and the Knicks. Knicks got blown out in their opener by the Pacers, 121-107. Lauren, they've obviously struggled the last couple of years, but now they have a new look in the front office and with a new head coach this season as well. I'm going to get my plastic cup, tie it on a string, and hopefully hear Lauren that way. I'm not getting Lauren. I'm not sure if anyone else out there had the audio drop as well, but I will.
Can you hear me now?
Take you out of suspense without Lauren.
Sometimes you mute and then you unmute just for good measure, and now we're back. All I said before was that the Knicks have some scrappy young talent, and it'll be interesting to see how they stack up against the Sixers, who mostly brought in new veterans in the offseason. The Knicks have some new young guys. The Sixers have some new vets. So it's an interesting sort of opposites type situation tonight. We'll see how it works out.
Yeah, there are some connections. Tom Thibodeau's the new head coach. He was an assistant under Doc Rivers when they won the title with the Celtics in 2008. A guy named Leon Rose now heads up the front office. He was the former agent up until this past offseason of Joel Embiid, repped Iverson for a bit, a guy who's been in the NBA forever. So that is intriguing just to see how that front office will go. R.J. Barrett came off a great game. He scored 26, had 8 boards and 5 assists against the Pacers in the Knicks loss. So this is a team that is trying to piece together a young core. They do have some guys who've been around a bit like Julius Randle and the 76ers. A great opportunity, as we said, Lauren, to try and take advantage of a pocket of the schedule early that on paper looks like there are opportunities to win a few games. Do it on the road and get right.
And the Sixers have struggled on the road. We talked about their record last season, but a place they haven't really struggled, Madison Square Garden. They play pretty well there and tend to enjoy it as well. So look for the guys to enjoy playing in Madison Square Garden despite the lack of fans, and hopefully carry on that good momentum, good juju that they seem to have in that building.
Yes, as we take a look at our Tissot keys to the game, I'm going to try and do this in 24 seconds apiece. For me, my key is no bumps on the road, plain and simple. This team is talented, even despite some of its newness. Talking about the 76ers. Oh, I hear the countdown clock. I think I'm almost running out of time. But let's get it done on the road. I think the Sixers, they just elevate themselves that much more. Zero in, focus, be your best on the road. It's that simple for me, Lauren.
My key to the game, also relatively simple this week. I said work through, not around. Doc Rivers has talked about it. The players have talked about it. There will be mistakes made in these first few games, but if they can work through those mistakes together and learn how to remedy them as opposed to avoiding them or working around them, they're going to be a better basketball team moving into the thick of the season. So work through the issues, not around them, and it should be a good equation. I don't know if that was 24 seconds. We'll have to see.
You know, I will say this has been a banner show for our production duo, Ryan Coletti and Trevor Gaffney. Not only the motion graphic swipe for Shake Milton, which I thought was a great touch, fellas, but the countdown clock with some intrigue and mystery. It's like, I don't know if 24 seconds are up or not, but I'm curious. It's the TikTok.
You feel like you're on the clock for sure.
You're on the edge of your seat, seeing if we can avoid disaster during this sponsored segment. All right, we're going to do it again tomorrow. It's a 7:30 game when the 76ers take on the Cleveland Cavaliers. So we'll start our stream a little bit after 6 o'clock. 76ers and the Knicks tonight. Enjoy the game.
As always, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.
See ya.